election time, but it's still a commonly held belief, and what I've been saying all along about how that's going to work is now obvious. So, it's a good time to talk about it. I have been putting this off for a while. Really quick, hopefully, a little bit of backstory. It's 173rd Airborne Infantrymen deployed to Logar Province, Afghanistan, did a deployment, earned my CIB, got shot at, shot back, did that kind of stuff. Was more recently in the 101st Airborne, and I was trying to tell people during the QAnon time that the military is blue pill. The military is not coming to save you. On my deployment, I had a legitimate communist platoon leader for quite some time. Russian wife, visited Russia regularly. We had an argument about the First and Second Amendment and how it applies to individuals. He said, I hate Americans because of people like you, for saying that all gun laws are infringements and there should be no such thing as free speech zones. Back when I think that's around when some Bundy Ranch stuff was happening. I don't exactly remember. It was 2009, 2010, so it must have been something before that, I guess. Anyways, so the idea, I say we all because I had the same thing, right? We all have this idea of our military being an honorable organization. We take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, which is why I get on Black Rifle Coffee's butt and any other veteran, especially the politicians who are commies like Dan Crenshaw. We give this conservative flavoring to our military, but if you think logically about it for a moment, the military essentially being the strong arm of our government, the government is not going to allow it to truly be a patriotic, freedom-loving organization. So, you know that PSYOPs are going on in your everyday life all over the place. You know that PSYOPs go on overseas. This is a real thing. This isn't just,
Put that away.
this isn't PSYOPs themselves are not conspiracy theories. There is no question that PSYOPs are a real thing. We helped those kids do a bunch of missions in Afghanistan. We were helping them pass out leaflets and, more importantly, radios to local nationals. Understand, because we knew that the local nationals were giving these radios to terrorists who are using the battery to power IEDs to blow us up. We knew that is what was happening. We don't understand why we were giving them away. We were giving them away because we were broadcasting on the radio station traditional Afghan music, but harping on women's rights and trying to separate families in the traditional Afghan family structure. And that was sorry, okay. So, our government, not socially engineering our military, would be stupid for our government, right? So of course they're going to do it. So the military has, for a long time, been a strong source, a
gonna take
yet
this.
they get out and they have this military pride and they want to go back to believing that it is what they want it to be until they get with a bunch of veterans and start talking crap about the military, and then it all comes out. It's a weird balance. Anyways, I think it could make for a great psychological study. However, fast forward to today and COVID and all of this. You have to remember that this started during the Trump administration, but at this point, where we are now, so two important things happened. One, my brother and his wife just got out of the military. One of my brother's wife's friends got their vaccine and died shortly after. His wife posted about it on Facebook. Her Facebook account was deleted. This was like just recently. I wanted to reach out to her and do an interview. I was like, get me her information. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what's being done. Right? Well, we reached out to her. Didn't get anywhere. Why? Because she was dead. Suicide. I guess she ran her vehicle off the road and hit a telephone pole, but they said that they believe that she did it on purpose and that she killed herself. Interesting. So, now they're out. However, my sister-in-law was told that if she didn't get her first vaccine dose before she got out, she would get a GOMAR, a letter of reprimand, and it could potentially lead to an other than honorable discharge. So you've had honorable service, you went down to work on the border, you've never been in trouble in the military. This was happening mid-October. Her final out date was November the 8th, I believe. So less than a month before she was going to get out. And they're telling her she's on terminal leave. If she doesn't come back from her terminal leave to get vaccinated, do paperwork on her that will detrimentally affect her in getting out. We went to IG. They won't touch it. Right? So, long story short, I reached out to a few people. They reached out to a few people. She basically flipped on the bird. I was like, let's go all the way up and all the way down the chain of command. Not just to one person, but every single person in the chain of command. This can't happen. It didn't happen. The dude was fine. He's already getting reassigned. Their doggone captain, whatever, some dirtbag. But we have an incredibly toxic environment right now in the military. And as of this December, anybody who does not get vaccinated will be released. I believe everybody's being threatened with GOMARs, these letters of reprimand that could lead to an other than honorable discharge. They're trying to use scare tactics on these soldiers. I think it will be an honorable discharge. I think that anybody that this happens to, it will be a failure to adapt, essentially. I think is what they would have called it when I was in, what they will be doing in the future. But imagine, you serve honorably, you deploy, you work your hardest, you don't let yourself become a toxic person, you truly want to serve, and you are left with the choice of getting a vaccination or being kicked out and seeing your entire career gone. This is the military breaking their contract with you because they cannot force you to do this. You don't have to get vaccinated. Deployment ready, oddly enough. So you could, at any of these points, have deployed without getting your vaccine. Like they wouldn't let you out without getting it. And this is it's a bad deal. And so, to this day, the QAnon thing continues. Even though Trump is calling for you to get vaccinated, even though is based on your oath. That whole defending the Constitution against enemies, foreign, domestic, that's where your honor comes from, because without that, you're mercenaries. So when you get guys like Black Rifle Coffee that are donating to Democrats that won't support Kyle Rittenhouse for defending himself, right? Gun laws are unconstitutional, remember? So there's no such thing as him breaking a gun law because of his age or where he's at. If you believe in the Bill of Rights. If you don't, that's fine, just say it. I don't support the Second Amendment and I think he did something wrong because he shouldn't have had that gun. Okay, at least you can be honest with yourself and we can have a discussion. But if you're so brainwashed that you think I support the Second Amendment, but he makes the Second Amendment look bad because he broke illegal anti-Second Amendment laws, which we need to support so that we can keep the Second Amendment alive by making laws against the Second Amendment. What? We can't have a logical discussion if you support gun laws and say that you support the Second Amendment. So they take House publicly, and they say it's because they don't profit on tragedy, and because they don't do advocacy, and yet at this exact time they're raising money for a Marine who allegedly murdered some stripper, and they're out there raising money for him at the exact time that they say this. But and then, of course, you have one of their high-up employees, I forget his name, donating to the Biden Victory Fund. It's one thing after another, talking about how the Proud Boys, who are Alex Jones supporters, doxing the guys at Black Rifle Coffee, and that was such a terrible thing to do that they were going to dox Alex Jones? What? Right? So these are the kind of people who piss on their oath and therefore have no honor. In fact, they're worse than not having honor. They are dishonorable. Because they took an oath to be in the military, and then they piss on that oath, which means that they only joined to be mercenaries. There was never any Americana. Let's support the moral right, liberty, freedom. No. Just guys who wanted to go look for a fight. And to some degree that could be respectable, but when you start pissing on liberty, then you're just another mercenary. So, and John McCain, a lot of this started with like John McCain. Because I was an ambassador for Grunt Style, they used my pictures to advertise the crap all over the place. It was one of their main pictures. And then they did a big memorial post for John McCain, who was a freaking traitor. And they say they're Grunt Style. Grunt. Infantry. 11 Bravo. Freaking should be morally straight, freaking ground pounded, fighting freedom heroes. And they're gonna go freaking blow this commie after he dies. So I cut the tie at that moment. As soon as they did that, I called them out for it. It's funny, a lot of the other brand ambassadors were like lighting me up, like, you're an idiot, blah, 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 you don't even know what you're losing. And then it was only like a month after that they cut all brand ambassadors. These dudes' entire profiles and lives covered in Grunt Style. Grunt Style defined who they were. Gone. Cut off. Fantastic. Anyways. The military's not coming to save you. Nobody is fighting for your liberty. Nobody in power. Everybody's waiting for somebody in power to do something for them. Nobody's doing anything for you. Here's what you have to understand if you want to win. Nobody else is going to do it for you. Your liberties and freedoms were given to you by God at birth. So anywhere you step your foot, the Bill of Rights applies to you. The only difference is, wherever you are, if you're in a different country, that government does not respect those rights, freedoms, and liberties, and our own government does not respect them either. So the only way that your freedoms will be realized is if you take them. And if you're going to do that on this planet where not a single country respects your liberties, you have to do it for yourself. So if you love liberty, freedom, whatever else, stop thinking about national borders. Start thinking about what you need to do for self-preservation and improvement.
Trying to find another podcast to listen to.
Most people won't admit that reality because if they admitted it, they would have to take responsibility for it. It's going to be really hard. And maybe things will go back to normal. Maybe we could just live a normal life like our fathers and forefathers. I don't wanna. Alright. I'm done. Freaking let me know what you think in the comment section below. Make sure to check the description box below. My website, Beach Tactical, custom rifle slings, Exodus knife and tool, knives when I get them in stock. Patreon, I'm an affiliate for Palmetto State Armory and Brownell, so if you're going to buy something from them anyways, you can click my link and your portions of your purchase will go to me. It doesn't cost anything extra. It helps the channel. Guys, nobody's coming to save you. So many people are waiting for a leader. Well, you're going to be waiting until you die. Start.
One thing that I really love about this family is that we all share ideas, our own analysis, things we see, solutions we have, information, whatever would be. All in the comments section. Oh my God, some of the things that are in there are absolutely brilliant. As I've said many times, nobody's cornered the market on good ideas. I've got some, sure. You guys have a ton more. I've implemented a ton of ideas that you guys have given me, and I hope other people have done the same with what's in the comments. A lot of you send me intel, which is greatly appreciated. And in the last 24 hours, I've got some real good emails from you guys. And I wanted to share them, or at least the concepts of them, because I think they're basically, for the most part, brilliant, or something we need to pay attention to and think about. Okay. First one came from a scout, and he was talking about the coin shortage. And what he said made a whole lot of sense. We've all talked about hyperinflation. We've all seen what's going on in Venezuela. It's like, okay, let's cut zeros on the dollar bills, whatever it would be. And, so they went to reprinting new money. That makes a lot of sense. Let's just say, hypothetically here, that they devalue the dollar by tenfold. So $100 bill is now a $10 bill. Okay? And the government just goes and prints a whole bunch of new currency. And if you go back to wartime, for military, whatever it would be, the guys were paid script, just like, the old company store type thing, you work for an online or whatever, it was paid script. And not be reprinted or reminted. For the simple reason is, as we all know, it costs more to mint a coin than pretty much the coin is worth. You know, a penny is like 1.3 cents. A nickel costs like 6 cents to mint the nickel. So, is there any potential for saving money, if you will, to save it in coinage? Not a bad idea. You know, the only fallback I could think on this one is if all of a sudden they came out and said any coin, well, I mean, I guess that would be more good to say any coin minted before 2022 is no longer any good. Yeah, I guess they could do that. But, again, can you imagine having to roll quarters to go pay for something in the cashier looking at what date is on the quarter every time? They don't look now. And if I find a 1954 quarter, you look at it, you go, okay, it's a quarter, it's worth 25 cents. You don't realize it's 90% silver. So, you know, something to think about there. Maybe an idea for saving money is, you know, those quarters, if you can find them. But at least get a bucket full, you know, your change that you get. Just start keeping your change. Might be a good idea. So another one I got was from Grassroots 1980. And he had sent me some pictures that he took over the weekend at Lowe's. I'm going to show you these two pictures here real quick. Take a look. Alright, so what you saw there was stacks upon stacks upon stacks of generators. And from what he said, probably 250 to 300 of them. Now he's in Mississippi. Okay. When did they order these generators? Who knows? Okay. Now I'll give you this, that having generators on stock for a hardware store would be a good idea during hurricane season. But as we've all talked, hurricane season ends shortly. Why would one store, stockpile that many generators? What do they know that's coming? Okay, it's a lot of freaking generators. The other thing that struck me in that picture was the pellets and pellets of water, you know, wrapped in shrink wrap, plastic that says Lowe's on the outside of it. Now let me ask everybody here. When you decide you want to go pick up some bottled water, isn't Lowe's the first place you think to go? Sure as hell ain't for me. Grocery store, Walmart, Costco, wherever it would be. Certainly not thinking about, hey honey, I need to get some water. Let me run to the hardware store. Why is Lowe's stocking up on so much bottled water? Yeah. What do they know that we don't? Interesting point. So then I go back to what we were kind of talking about this morning's video, and lots of comments on it. And one thing I wanted to really point out, I mean, obviously y'all know we have viewership on the channel, you know, people in the family from all over the world, okay? Constantine, obviously, you know, depending on the week, he's either in Moscow or he's in Rostov-on-Don. But, you know, a lot of you know him. But there are other family members here who grew up in Soviet era, okay? Daniel Vransino made a comment this morning. He says, in communist Romania in the 80s, food was rationed. I remember 2 liters of milk a week. Meat was not. Meat was impossible to find. Okay? Again, 1980s, different country than I talked about this morning. This was in Romania. Okay? JVND in Russia. Okay? This one's a little long, but I'll read this one up. I was born and grew up in the Soviet Union. As a kid, I had a choice for breakfast or packed school lunch. Bread with mustard or bread with lard and raw onions. If I was well behaved, I could have both mustard and onions. Wow. Okay. For supper, we had plain rice pudding, no fruit, curry rice. Mix curry powder with rice, onions, and water and roast in the oven. Bread and lard, plain roasted potatoes, homemade noodles with breadcrumbs or seminola with milk and cocoa. Eggs were for Saturday only.
Be nice,
1 to 2 eggs per person. Meat was on the table once a week. And it goes back to what I said this morning about what Mrs. B was telling me.
Easy.
It was usually a piece of beef shin cooked in a soup and then served as the main meal. And there was just enough for that one meal. Cakes and sweets were reserved for special occasions, and we could snack on vanilla waffles once in a while. Chocolate, dark chocolate bars, were given to kids as medicine for bad tummy and diarrhea. Bananas, oranges, lemons, dried fruit, figs, raisins, dates were known to mankind only at Christmas. Fresh produce was only available in season. No apples in May, no berries or tomatoes in November, and from October through April, whatever vegetables and fruit we had came from a jar. Pickles, compotes, or crock, sauerkraut, gherkins. Ham was made at home once a year, in January. We got a piece of pork from a relative.
Whoa.
This is what I'm talking about, guys, is we have to get used to eating very differently if shit hits the fan, I guess, if you want to leave it at that. You know, again, I'll just bring this up. You go back to World War II. You go back to my grandparents, okay? And my grandparents were born side of the family in Czechoslovakia, dad's side of the family in Poland. All right, so, and what they ate, obviously being, I mean, they came over to the U.S. Both my grandfathers are Navy veterans from World War II. Okay? But what they ate, and it kind of struck me as, you know, Mrs. P and I got that half side of beef the other day, last month. And it was funny because when we got the cut list to be beef processed, one of the things it said on there is, do you want the beef tongue, the beef livers, or the soup bones? Otherwise, they just get thrown out. Well, we got the livers, we got the beef tongue, and we got the bones. Made bone broth, made bone meal. Dogs got some. You know, off and running we went. But if you think back to what, for some of us, our parents, for others, our grandparents, for some of us, it might have been our great-grandparents, ate in those times. I mean, you go back, like I mentioned, cow tongue. Believe it or not, cow tongue is very good. It's a lean meat, very, very tasty. Beef liver, chicken liver. I mean, used to be a staple in American diets. I remember eating chicken livers all the time. Mrs. P still makes chicken livers and mashed potatoes, a little bit of hot sauce and good stuff. Okay, but beef liver and onions, most people won't touch it. Personally, if it's cooked right, it's delicious. Just dry it out so it's like shell out. But go back to some of the other things. Think about this. This is stuff that you may have to eat. You know, the friggin' kidney pie. Heard of it? Okay, mentioned it. Had it. Pig's feet. Those as a kid. Oxtail soup. Cow tail, actually, but literally it's the tail of the cow that's fucking skinned and using the tail.
I've been telling people it would make a good command center.
Soup. Salts. Which you probably don't know what the translation is, but head cheese. You've all seen that in the deli case, probably. Okay, and it's little pieces of meat in basically what looks like jelly. Right. That's basically boiling down the bones and getting the fat. That jelly is all the fat, and the little last pieces of meat that you get off the bones. Make a sandwich out of that. Okay, turns into lunch meat. Mutton. When's the last time you ate mutton? Maybe you've had lamb chops, but when's the last time you ate mutton? Okay. Cow brains. These are literally things that potentially are going to be what you wind up eating again. And it's, again, not like something that has not been done before. We've all got spoiled eating our Big Macs and fries, you know, whatever it would be. That's not in the future, guys. Especially, I mean, look, put it this way, go to McDonald's and have dinner tonight. Get yourself a couple of hamburgers, a fry, and a Coke. You just dropped $15 for McDonald's. Really? Okay. No. So things to think about. But I wanted to recognize some of the people here that have made great contributions to the channel and share some of their thoughts, because that's kind of what I like to do. It gets me thinking about stuff. You know, sometimes you guys lead me down the rabbit hole, and I start looking into stuff. But it's important that we all know these different things and think about it. So sharing ideas, guys, don't ever feel like, oh gee, it's not important. Okay? Yeah, if it's something that you found interesting and you want to share it, send it to me. I mean, now sending me videos that, Prepared Homestead does or something like that, I watch those anyway, guys. Okay, so you don't have to send me the links to videos. In the ones to anything that's going on with the vaccines, I can't talk about anyway, so you know that. So, I mean, that's not going to help. But, any of this other stuff, feel free to share it to me. I do read every one of your emails, guys. Believe it or not, I try to read all the comments. So, because a lot of times there's good information in there that needs to be shared. But I wanted to give you all that. Have a great Monday afternoon. I'm going back out and play in the mud because I still got more gardens to prep. See y'all. People out.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Gotta find another podcast here.
Items at the top. First, I would like to start, of course, with Sudan. The United States condemns the actions taken overnight by Sudanese military forces. The arrest of civilian government officials and other political leaders, including Prime Minister Hamdok, undermines the country.
Good morning, gang. I'm back. All right. Yeah, the battle continues. So I want to start this one real quick, because God knows I've got a ton of emails from people. Where have you been? Where have you been? Are you okay? Whatever. Guys,
Get out of
don't
here.
know me.
There's too
All
much
right?
heat on you.
I toe that line real close, and occasionally I step over it. I just spent the last week and a half in YouTube jail. Now,
I like these young
I'm
guys.
not here. Y'all know
Remind me of
every morning
me.
without fail
Small.
I post a video.
And it's going to take a lot
Every
more
day
than a basement
with
full
what's
of
going
little
on.
meat
Keep you guys
to win
informed,
this
let you
war.
know what's going on in the
Time
topics,
has
the
come,
region,
baby.
whatever.
Castillo has
Come
many
to this
bullets,
channel, Pinball
but we will
Careers,
have
and you
Khalid.
don't see a video in the morning, go check out the backup channel, which is Pinball Prepping. All right, the link to it is below
Ito
in the
only
description.
needs one.
Go over there, because for the last week and a half, that's where I've been posting all the daily updates, commentary, tips, whatever would be. The
If you're
thing
going to the
is,
museum,
YouTube
don't believe
doesn't
everything you read.
say, hey,
More
we're
revision
looking
is
at giving you a
history
strike.
than
It's just all of a sudden I look at the computer, poof, you're shut down for X amount of time. So I can't go on the community board. I can't tell you anything of the sort about not being here. So the only thing I can tell you is I ain't gonna shut up. And so if you don't find me on this channel, go look on Prepping, Pinball Prepping, because that's where I'll be. That's where I've been for the last time. I do post to both channels, so I would, if you want to know what's going on, I would suggest subscribing to both and just paying attention. You don't have to, I'm just telling you where I am, because a lot of you guys asked. So, all right, housekeeping out of the way. Let's get into the scary shit that's going on. Now, those of you that watched yesterday's video on Pinball Prepping, where I told you to be very cognizant about what's going on in the 10-year yield, because we are very close to economic 1.67 as I'm recording this video at 9 o'clock on Friday morning. Like I said, 1.75 is where we go. We have problems. Now, here's what's going on. The as for your money, not just today but for going forward, I'll give you some interesting information. Europe has now come out and said that they are pushing 5% inflation for the year. That's what they're now projecting. I mean, granted, we got 2 months left to go in the year. They're at 4% now. They're predicting another 1% increase for the year-over-year numbers. So that's significant here going into the last month. Remember, official inflation figures do not include food and energy and housing in Europe, okay, which are pretty much the three most expensive things that people pay. We all know what's going on with energy prices in Europe. I mean, Canada is looking at $6 a gallon of gas. We are up over $4 a gallon in the U.S. on average. Europe has heating oil problems. They have natural gas problems. Okay, so we have a worldwide calamity. Then you add what came out yesterday afternoon in the U.S. And for those of you that pay attention to the oil markets, because obviously this affects your gasoline, your natural gas, your heating oil, whatever petroleum, plastics, styrofoam, whatever petroleum products you use. The Cushing, Oklahoma storage facility. This is the largest storage facility the United States has for West Texas intermediate crude. They are now warning that they are almost out of oil. And now what you are getting from the analysts is we could see prices explode by the end of the year. Now, remember at the beginning of the year, my predictions, as I said, I bet you we see on average $5 a gallon of gas in the United States. If this happens, we smoke $5 a gallon of gas. I know some places, California and things like that, it's already over $5. I'm talking on average. Right now, where I am in Texas, it's a little, where the hell do I live? It's the second time I've done that. Where I am in Tennessee, gas is a little over $3 a gallon. All right, so we're up over 50% since Potato took office. Now, what the hell do we do? I've mentioned many times about precious metals, okay? We're also, storing your gasoline, but there's only so much you can store, okay? 5-gallon containers and 55-gallon drums, whatever it's going to be. You can't store hundreds of gallons of gas in your backyard. Physically, sure, you could, okay? But safety-wise, not exactly the greatest idea, okay? But you get what my point is. Gasoline's going to explode. Heating oil's going to explode. We already know what's going on in shortages on coal, on natural gas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I get into precious metals, and I've talked about it, Rudy's talked about it, about buying silver, about buying gold, about whatever. And so many people, your opinion, you know what I've always said about opinions. You can take mine, take what you want as, what you want to do with it, ignore what you don't care about. Okay, that's fine. I'm giving you my take on this. We all know about Venezuela. There is utter catastrophe. They've dropped 6 zeros off of the currency right now, and what $1 is something like 2.4 billion bolivar. Okay, so you can imagine you're not buying anything with bolivar. In Venezuela, if you have US dollars, merchants are thrilled. If you have euros, merchants are thrilled. If you have the Colombian peso, merchants are happy. By law, they have to take bolivar. Okay, you can't refuse somebody purchasing. You want to get a haircut, it's going to cost you 15 billion bolivar. And so we go back to the Weimar Republic idea where you're pushing a wheelbarrow in to do it. This is where I say precious metals when everybody says, well, what good are they? This is actually going on now. Okay, this is what hyperinflation does. In Venezuela, today, okay, October 22nd, you have merchants that are taking payment in gold, all right? Yahoo Finance. All right. One night stay in a hotel, half a gram of gold. Lunch for two at a Chinese restaurant, a quarter of a gram of gold. A haircut, an eighth of a gram of gold. Merchants are taking gold. Nowhere in the world has used gold as a currency in over 100 years. It's now being used again. This is what I'm telling you guys. When everything goes to hell, if the U.S. has a hyperinflationary market, that destroys the world economy. It doesn't matter if you got euros, yen, bolivar, rubles, francs, Australian dollars, doesn't make a lick of difference. If the U.S. dollar collapses, the entire world economy goes to shit. Period. This is it. People have asked me, is it possible, after yesterday's video, is it possible the U.S. could default on our debt? Yes, but the chances of the U.S. defaulting on the debt are slim. Why? Because the Fed will just crank up the printing presses faster, which is going to drive inflation up. That's why I said yesterday about watching interest rates, because as interest rates go up and the Fed is going to stop this buyback, quantitative easing, which is going to drive rates up, which is going to cause more inflation. Countries around the world are saying expect inflation to continue through 2022. Not to say where we are, to keep going up, all right? So your dollar is going to be worth less and less and less and less, which means commodities are going to be worth more and more and more and more, all right? And whether that commodity is oil, whether it's wheat, whether it's gold, silver, whatever would be. Now, if anybody took a look this morning, all right, again, a little after 9 o'clock here, markets are open. Gold is back up above 1,800 bucks. It's up 4.5% this morning. Silver is up above 24.50. It's coming back. Silver's pushing almost 2% up today because the traders, the ones who really decide what's going on with the economy, are freaking out, all right? If you look at the sentiment on the markets as of right now, as what the traders, the guys working the floor, or the guys wearing what's the color? One guy wearing a cow coat, with their numbers on the floor, traders. Okay. You have slightly over half of the traders right now are bullish on the economy. Bullish means think it's going to get better, right? Slightly under half think it's going to get worse. That trend is going down. You have more and more traders every day that are hedging. They're getting out of the markets and going into safe havens, i.e. commodities of some sort, precious metals, oil futures, whatever it would be. Okay? Because those guys, their job is to make money. If they don't see it in the stock market, they see it in commodities. Guess what that means, guys? All right? This is where we want to be. You've got to figure out a way to protect your assets. Everything. Like I said, land, great thing to buy. Move to it, okay? If you've got extra cash, pay off your bills. Get out of debt. If you've got extra savings, I've mentioned the figures for years that rule of thumb has been 5 to 10% in precious metals. That's now better. 20% is a better way to do it. 20% of whatever you have in savings should be in silver. Period. It will be used as currency. Venezuela today is telling you exactly what's going on. The world's falling apart, guys, economically. And Trudeau and Biden and Morrison and Merkel and everybody, they're just ramping the speed up. Do what you can to save your ass. I can't scream enough. I've done videos on how to buy precious metals. I'm not going to get into trying to tell people how to buy oil futures. That's not for the faint of heart, let's put it that way. But if you have the ability to go to the store and buy motor oil for your car, 3 or 4 oil changes worth, or your lawnmower, or your weed whacker, filters, paper products that are going to be able to keep your machinery that you are going to need running. I've mentioned before, 30% of the tractors that farmers use right now are sitting out in the fields, not running. Why? Because the tractor broke down, it got a flat tire or whatever it would be, and the parts aren't available. Get what you can commodities-wise, because there is coming a day very shortly, and no, I am not trying to fearmonger here, where you are going to go to the store and this stuff ain't going to be there. You are going to go to the store and they're going to say, I'm sorry, that loaf of bread is $20 because we're going to hit hyperinflation. It's coming. We are close. Please take care of this for yourself. I don't want to have to say, I told you so. A month, 2 months, 6 months down the road for this. If the worst case scenario hits and nothing happens, pray to God, okay? Trust me, I'm not the one that wants to see SHTF happen at all, okay? I just don't want to be caught with my pants down if it does. But worst case scenario, if you go do this, big deal, what do you have? You've got oil to do those oil changes now that you don't have to worry about buying oil for a few seasons. Cool, okay? You got an extra filter. Cool, no big deal. You bought precious metals. Gee, by some act of God, the world economy gets better and everything like that. Fine, go sell the gold and silver. Okay? Not a big deal. It's a hedge, guys. It's to protect yourself.
How many years
This is
since you've
what
been down the
we are
mountain?
all trying to do as preppers, is protect ourselves from catastrophe.
We have a lot of good memories.
Down to make some new ones.
Do something.
You should join us, hermano.
Because if we're running out of oil in the United States, Europe's running out of natural gas. China's running out of coal. What the hell is going to come down next?
Come on.
Please, 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 please take this seriously. I know there's going to be plenty of you that disagree with me and say, gee, I'd rather buy green beans than buy oil or buy gold or whatever it is, and that's fine. Okay? But once you've got all the green beans that you need, and you've got something else to do, please take this seriously. Because I ain't kidding with you. We are getting ready for economic calamity.
And all that remained was the truth.
Come back.
Lobo did have a way of cutting through bullshit.
I wish he
All right,
was
good
here
morning,
now.
everybody.
He'd be so happy to see us and Carlito.
Happy to see you and Carlito, baby.
Enough of that nonsense, El Tigre.
Good morning, gang. Happy Monday. Back to the grind again.
Nice one, Danny.
You know, it was pretty eye-opening to read the comments on yesterday's drive time video, if you will. You know, I had mentioned that I talked to Prepper Now, and we were kind of trying to figure this out. But, I mean, the comments yesterday, God knows there were a lot of them, because it took me a couple hours to go through, and I didn't even get through all of them. But it was kind of interesting to read what y'all were saying. Some people were saying that their grocery stores, their dollar stores, looked exactly like what I showed. And there's other people that said their stores were full and everything was peachy keen. Okay. So that brings up the obvious question of why? You know, and like I said, Prepper Now and I had talked, and, you know, he was wondering if red states were being punished and the blue states were being rewarded, if you will, for, you know, our buddy here. Maybe. But, you know, I was kind of thinking I was seeing the other thing, that the blue states were the ones suffering and the red states were the ones that were doing better. So, of course, I went to the store today, or yesterday. And, you know, so then, it was, you know, reading your guys' comments about what y'all think. And the thought crossed my mind, you know, a lot of you said, you know, hey, maybe they're reducing it out in the rural areas and bringing everything to the cities. I think you can look at common sense, I don't want to say common sense, common business practice. Put the majority of your product where the majority of your customers are. Okay? That would make sense. Obviously, there's a lot more people in the city than there is in the country. So stock those first. That could be a very logical answer. The other one is the one I proposed the other day, is, gee, we've got heat, we've got food, we've got water, all you got to do is give up your pew-pews and, get a pat on the shoulder and, come on in, take a hot shower, get a hot meal. I mean, that's a possibility. That's been talked about many, many times, of moving the people in from the country into the cities because it's easier to corral everybody there. But what I kind of want to get to is, if you haven't got the idea that we're on our own now, okay, that there ain't nobody coming to help, all right, and nobody gives a rat's ass about the public. Not in the U.S., not in Canada, not in Germany, not in Australia, not in Russia, not in South Africa, not in Zimbabwe, nowhere, okay? Maybe you saw this, maybe you didn't. Now the 1% in the United States has more combined wealth than the remaining 99% of the country, okay? We have the haves and the have-nots, the elites, okay? And they are just, this goes back to what I was saying for many times about Bezos, Phil, and Zuckerberg, and, God knows what, okay? This is kind of where it's heading to. They're going to be the ones in control. But where I say we're on our own, let's take a look at what the 1%ers, and most of our politicians on both sides are those 1%ers, okay? Nancy Pelosi is certainly not worried about where her next ice cream freezer is coming from, and, Mitt Romney can always strap another, he can get another dog to strap to the roof of his car. That's not a big problem. They can afford whatever the hell they want. It's the rest of us who are going, okay, what do we do? And the reason I say they don't care, let me give you just a couple examples. Right? California, homeless crisis, drought, wildfires, cost of living's outrageous. What was important for California to do this weekend? Okay. Running a bill through that will make small engines, i.e. lawnmowers and gas blowers, illegal by 2024. So you can't mow your lawn, okay, unless you use green energy, okay? Or maybe the other thing that Newsom signed, where you now have to have a gender-neutral toy aisle at a toy store, that you can't market Barbies to girls and Tonka trucks to boys. This is the priorities that they saw. Okay, well, maybe that's only California. No, let's take the federal government. They had the meeting of, 13 governors or whatever to discuss the border crisis, and our border czar, the vice resident. The only reason vice is in there is because that'll be the department of the police that winds up investigating all the crimes she's committed. Governors are talking about the border crisis. She decided it was a good time to go visit a daycare center in New Jersey. Really? Okay, and of course then you got Joe, who's got to call a meeting of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and figure out if he wants chocolate or tapioca pudding tonight before Joe puts him to bed. This is the stupidity we got going on. It's like, okay, the military, we can't train them to fight a war. We got 2 weeks or whatever it is until the mandates are done, and there's something like 40% of the military that's like, nah. That's not a crisis to Joe. That, okay, you could lose a third to 40% of your fighting force. Gee, if that's not an invitation for China to go to hell with Taiwan, let's take California. I don't know what is, okay, or Hawaii or Alaska, or pick one. But going back to the comments from this morning, the food, okay, and this, the government not caring about us. This is on the USDA website, U.S. Department of Agriculture, okay? The very first question on their homepage, or on their Q&A page, says, will there be food shortages? The FDA's answer is, There are currently no nationwide shortages of food. That is the very first sentence in their answer. Now, let me give you some of the headlines over the weekend. Okay. Superintendent of the Green Bay, Wisconsin schools. The food shortage is affecting school